For millions of older Australians, August 2025 is shaping up to be one of the most significant months in recent pension history. With new age pension rates, revised income thresholds, and updated asset limits now in effect, every retiree or soon-to-be retiree needs to understand exactly how these changes will impact their payments, their eligibility, and their financial security moving forward. These are not small adjustments buried in government paperwork. These are concrete updates that could mean the difference between receiving a little extra support each fortnight or finding your pension reduced because of stricter rules you weren't prepared for. The government has officially confirmed that the base pension rates have been recalculated, reflecting both inflationary pressures and the rising cost of living, which has hit seniors particularly hard over the past 2 years. Energy bills, grocery prices, rent, and even basic healthcare expenses have climbed steadily, leaving many older Australians feeling stretched despite relying on the age pension as their primary source of income. The August 2025 update is designed to address some of that strain, but it comes with fine print, changes to the income and assets test that determine who qualifies and how much they receive. For couples, singles, part pensioners, and those on full payments, the new limits will decide whether you gain a little breathing room or risk losing a portion of your support. What makes this update especially important is how it interacts with other policy changes already on the horizon. Adjustments to superannuation rules, shifts in rental assistance, and ongoing debates about cost of living relief all tie into the bigger picture. That means it's not just about what's changing this month, but how those changes will ripple through the rest of the year and beyond. Seniors across Australia are already asking, will my pension go up? Will I still qualify under the new asset test? And what steps can I take now to ensure I'm getting every dollar I'm entitled to? In this video, we'll break down everything clearly, no jargon, no confusion, just the facts about the August 2025 age pension changes and what they truly mean for your daily life, your budget, and your peace of mind. When we talk about the age pension, we're not just talking about a line in a government budget or a simple payment system. For millions of Australians, it is the backbone of retirement life, the very thing that makes day-to-day living manageable when work is no longer part of the routine. That's why every change, no matter how small it might look on paper, carries weight. August 2025 is not an ordinary month in this regard, because this is when a recalibration of pension rates, income thresholds, and asset test limits officially takes effect. It's not about abstract numbers in Canberra. It's about the dollars that land in your account, the bills you can pay without stress, and the choices you can make with confidence rather than hesitation. To properly understand what's happening now, we have to step back a little and consider how the pension system has been evolving. Over the past several years, inflation has consistently pressured retirees, and the government has been under growing pressure to ensure that older Australians are not left behind. The March and September indexations, which are designed to align pensions with changes in wages and the Consumer Price Index, have often been seen as a lifeline. But many seniors have noticed that those adjustments rarely seem to keep pace with the real increases in rent, groceries, utilities, and medical costs. That frustration has been simmering, and the August 2025 changes are an attempt to address at least part of it, though whether they go far enough is still hotly debated. For single pensioners, the base rate has been nudged upward, providing a little more breathing space, while couples are also seeing adjustments meant to reflect the reality of shared living costs. The idea is that nobody should slip through the cracks simply because the rules have not been updated to match current realities. Yet with every increase, there are also boundaries. The income test and assets test, which decide who qualifies for a full pension and who receives only a part pension, have also been shifted. These tests are essentially the gatekeepers of the system. They balance fairness, trying to ensure that those with greater financial resources rely less on taxpayer-funded pensions, while still providing meaningful support to those who truly need it. But when these thresholds move, they can push some people out while pulling others in, and that creates both winners and losers. Imagine, for example, a retiree who has carefully saved over the years, building up modest superannuation, and perhaps holding onto a family home along with some additional assets. Under the old thresholds, they might have only qualified for a part pension, but with the new limits, they may find themselves receiving a slightly larger payment. Conversely, another retiree who had been sitting comfortably just under the threshold may suddenly be tipped over, reducing their entitlement. That's why it's so crucial to look closely at the numbers, not just the headlines, because while the news will often highlight pension increase, the personal impact depends on your exact financial situation. One of the biggest concerns voiced by seniors is whether these changes genuinely reflect the soaring cost of essentials. Electricity bills alone have risen at rates far beyond the standard inflation figures, and many pensioners living in rental accommodation know the pinch of rising housing costs better than anyone. Even with Commonwealth rent assistance factored in, there are countless Australians who find that half or more of their pension is swallowed up before they've even walked into a supermarket or paid for medication. That's why this August update is being closely watched, not only for what it delivers in base rate increases, but also for what it signals about the government's willingness to provide targeted relief in the months ahead. Another dimension to consider is the broader conversation about superannuation and retirement saving. Many Australians reaching pension age today do so with varying levels of super. Some have been fortunate enough to accumulate substantial balances thanks to compulsory contributions over decades, while others, particularly women who took career breaks for family responsibilities, enter retirement with far less. The interaction between superannuation income and the age pension rules is becoming increasingly complex, and the August 2025 update doesn't exist in isolation. It comes at a time when financial advisors are warning that seniors need to be more proactive than ever in managing how they draw down their super to avoid accidentally breaching income test limits. What's also emerging is a sharper divide between homeowners and renters. Pension policy in Australia has long assumed that owning your home outright dramatically reduces living costs, and in many cases that is true. But for those who do not own a property, the pension has often proven inadequate, leaving renters vulnerable to poverty. The new rules attempt to address this by slightly shifting the assets test in a way that acknowledges the additional financial strain renters face. But whether it is enough to truly level the playing field remains questionable. For many, the small increase in pension rates may quickly be consumed by yet another rise in weekly rent, leaving them no better off than before. We should also talk about the timing of these changes. August is not typically a major pension adjustment month. Those usually fall in March and September, but the government has chosen to implement these updates now to coincide with a broader suite of cost of living measures announced earlier in the year. That decision reflects the mounting political pressure on Canberra to do something tangible for older Australians, who represent a powerful voting bloc. As the nation edges closer to the next federal election cycle, pension policy is once again front and centre, and no party wants to be seen as neglecting seniors at a time of economic uncertainty. The conversation doesn't stop at simple rate adjustments. There are ongoing debates about how pension policy should evolve in the coming decade, especially as Australia's population continues to age. The proportion of Australians over 65 is growing rapidly, and that demographic shift raises difficult questions about sustainability. Can the government continue to support an expanding pension base without significant tax reforms or changes to eligibility rules? Some economists argue that adjustments like the August 2025 update are necessary, but only scratch the surface of a much larger issue. They warn that without structural reform, future retirees may face stricter eligibility tests, delayed access ages, or even reduced payment growth. For today's seniors, those may sound like distant concerns, but they play directly into the policy decisions being made now. Looking at it from the perspective of daily life, what does this all mean? It means that as of August 2025, pensioners will see changes in their payments, some higher, some potentially adjusted downward depending on personal assets and income. It means that financial planning becomes even more critical because a small miscalculation in how you report income or draw down super could affect fortnightly entitlements. It also means that seniors need to stay informed because too often the official communication about these updates is dense, technical, and buried in government websites that are not particularly user-friendly. That's why conversations like this one matter. It's about making sure you know the reality behind the numbers. For instance, if you are a single pensioner renting in Sydney or Melbourne, the increase you receive in August might not feel like an increase at all once your landlord raises the rent again. If you are a couple living in a mortgage-free home in a regional area, you might find that the little extra you're receiving actually makes a noticeable difference, perhaps giving you the freedom to pay for heating without guilt or to take a short trip to see the grandkids. In both cases, the update is the same, but the lived experience is profoundly different. There's also the question of how these changes interact with supplementary benefits. Many seniors rely not just on the age pension, but on additional payments such as the pensioner concession card benefits, pharmaceutical allowances, or state-based concessions on utilities and transport. An increase in the pension may sound positive, but if it pushes you into a slightly higher income bracket, you could inadvertently lose access to some of these concessions, offsetting the gain. This is one of the reasons pension updates are always viewed with a mix of relief and apprehension. The devil, as they say, is in the details. As we continue to unpack the August 2025 changes, it's important to recognize that these are not just bureaucratic updates. They are deeply personal, affecting everything from weekly shopping lists to long-term retirement plans. The decisions made in Canberra may appear clinical, but for seniors on the ground, they are felt in the most ordinary and intimate of ways, choosing whether to switch the heater on during a cold night, deciding whether to see a doctor about a persistent cough, or calculating whether there's room in the budget for a birthday gift for a grandchild. These are the realities of life on the pension, and they deserve to be spoken about with honesty.